and for his blessings. He has now come in our midst. He's with us. We don't see him as a spook. Right. He's no spook. He's a live man. He's a living God. I'm sorry that I have not asked you to sit down. You look so beautiful, and I don't want you to sit down.
And a guest, and maybe he could help me to convey a message to you. He's my friend. I like him a lot, and I'm going to tell you why I brought him in and why I think he's important to the future of you learning about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his name is Yosef bin Asiel Israel. Salam alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due, we thank that great God for his coming to the wilderness of North America to raise up amongst us the first begotten from the dead. That special soul, I speak none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. In those holy and righteous names, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. We'll be right back after these quick commercials. Looking for something that feels good, looks great, and stands the test of time? Well, we have it for you. Black Royalty is our athleisure line that is made from the finest bamboo and cotton blend. We have designed high quality tracksuit and t-shirts in multiple colors that provide you the most comfort when you need it most. Whether you're in the gym or running errands or just lounging around with loved ones, you need to be in the best quality clothing as possible. We have constructed a high quality clothing line that does not break the bank, and we beat out all of our competitors on price. So please, if you're interested in being comfortable, not just in the gym, but when you're running around and doing errands, please visit blackroyaltywear.com. Also, you can find us on Instagram at Black Royalty. And if you have any questions or comments about our brand and how you can help participate, you can find us at blackroyaltywear@gmail.com. We'll be quick to answer your questions, and with our responses, we will be very thorough. So also, like I said, Black Royalty is for you because it was made by you with the intentions of serving you. So leave all those other clothing lines behind and get on what makes sense, something that's going to stand the test of time, because black don't crack. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back again to another installment of Know Thyself radio show, where we make it our business, our duty, our responsibility to give you nothing but the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, as so taught and given to him by God in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due. And I would be remiss in my duty and responsibility if I don't take a moment, a second, to thank my guests on the previous episode installment of Know Thyself radio show, Brother Lionel Muhammad, who had a magnificent story and gave a testimony of only how a true believer is able to persevere and endure over time that he was wrongfully incarcerated and mistreated by an unjust system who seeks to not just destroy his life, but all of us who are unaware of our true nature and our true identity. So I thank Brother Lionel for such a powerful and thought-provoking conversation that we had. But today there is no guest. It's just myself and the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I want to take the time to touch on a sensitive subject to most people, but one that I feel that we as a people have been moving away from as far as the importance and relevance of our salvation. See, this platform was established in concert with the motivation and the encouragement of the late great brother Munir Muhammad Crow and the Crow family, the co-founders, to be a beacon of truth, be a beacon of light, and to address situations that we know are ill impacting our communities and our people. We know and we believe and we trust so heartily in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and their ability to not just help and aid and assist, but to totally reverse all of the hell that we've been catching as a people in the wilderness of North America and throughout the planet that we have been governed by our open and outright enemy. And because of that, it is a responsibility on my end to talk to these sensitive subject matters which we try to avoid at all costs, or that we pretend are not as detrimental as they are. And so for me, I want to touch on the subject, and I know I'm not going to be able to in its entirety go through every point that I would like to, but I'm going to take some time to be as thorough and exact as I possibly can. And because it's my show, if I don't get it all in the time that I feel like is appropriate, I will come back and give you more. Because for me, I can't say that I love God, that I love his messenger, that I love my people, if I won't address and talk to the things that I know are destroying the very fabric of who we are. So this particular installment of Know Thyself radio show is centered around the premise of reestablishing the power of the black man, the black God, so that he can usher in an era that the black family is brought back to its proper position and context. Now I know what you're thinking, well, that's not the problem to the hell that we're catching in America. That's not the problem to the hell that we're catching in all over the world. That's not going to solve our economic issues. That's not going to solve our social issues. That's not going to solve our political issues. And I beg to differ. If you're talking about being a nation, if you're talking about being a government, if you're talking about being a people, if you're talking about being a kingdom, what are those powerful institutions comprised of? Groups of people. Groups of people what? Families. Families are households where everybody has the proper understanding of their position and their role to produce a outcome that is beneficial for their growth and development. So if we want to rectify all of the other ills that we face currently, we have to go to the root, and the root is the family. And the root of the family is the father, is the man. He is the foundation in which the family will either be successful or will be a failure. Well, Big Mama raised all of us. There wasn't no daddy home, or wasn't grandpa home, and she did a good job. Big Mama did the best job she possibly could. I do not question that. Nor do you have a retort come from me saying that that's not true. But we're talking about elevating the gods again. And Big Mama can't do it on her own, because Big Mama, whether you want to admit it or not, still rendered up, submitted to a greater force than herself. Hear what I'm saying now? Big Mama still submitted to a force greater than herself. And she trained the women and the men in her family to submit to. And unfortunately, that force that we submitted to is the system of white supremacy. It has many faces, but that is the through and through true reality that it comprises, that it is made and conformed from. So, why haven't we been able to move a system of injustice and systematic racism? It's because, like you said, Big Mama was leading the house, but she really wasn't leading the house, because that is part of the divide and conquer that the white man has developed to destroy the direction of progress for our people. It is by nature for a woman to submit to a man. She should submit to her man, but she will submit to any man who possesses enough power that she feels that is appropriate for her to submit and bow down to. That's not theoretical. That's actuality. So that's why even some of you men who have a woman who goes out and works in corporate world, and she may have a little more education than you as it relates to schooling, she may make more money than you due to the discriminatory practices that has been established against the black man to elevate the black woman, to put the man in a position of servitude, subject him to a position of inferiority. It is because that black woman still submits to her white boss. I know. So it's only so much that you can do as a man when somebody else is creating provisions for your woman. Let me say that again. It's only so much control you have in the household. It's only so much influence, only so much you can tell your wife, your girlfriend, your sister, when you're not the one who is creating provisions for that woman. So she's following somebody else's program. So how, as a black woman, or you as a black man, is supposed to be instituting a redemptive program for the rehabilitation of our people when your woman and your children are giving their energy, their intellect, their power, their experience, their efforts to somebody else's program? That's somebody else being the one who was created to be diametrically opposed to your very existence. I hope I'm not being too harsh, but I hope I am, because I want to strike a nerve. I want you to feel uncomfortable. I don't want you to think that we as men who strive to be gods are able and should be willing to send our women off to be under somebody else's care and supervision, when we know they don't have no care, and their supervision is just to have them have their servitude. Well, we got to make some money. We got to do what it do. Oh, brother and sister, especially my brothers, life is so much more than just that, and you are the originator of all of this. Everything comes out of your beautiful black mind. And we know black is just another word for God. But because you haven't been able to use your mind properly and appropriately in the past 400 plus years, in reality, it seems that it's encroaching on about 6,000 years for sure. And some people are going to debate those numbers, but in the context of what we're talking about right now, we're going to stay between those two ranges. We have totally been void of the ability to produce something that has the ability to properly protect us, because we haven't used our mind. We have been used the mind that we have been impregnated with by our open and outright enemy. I hope you're here with me right now and that you're listening to what I'm saying. This is Know Thyself Radio Show. I am your host, your speaker, your teacher tonight, Brother Prince Yosef, and your brother. Let me tell you what the messenger says in page 98 of Message to the Blackman in America under the subtitle of Truth. It starts off with the Holy Quran scripture, 2nd Surah, 42nd verse. And mix not up the truth with falsehood, nor hide the truth while you know. The Holy Quran is a great book when it is understood. The above verse warns us against mixing truth and falsehood, as it is with policy of the devils. But nearly all of the religious leaders of Christianity are guilty of mixing up the divine truth with falsehood. Now, they don't know which is truth and which is falsehood. They are really confused, thinking and planning against the truth, trying to hide falsehood. They mix up the truth of the Bible so much that today they admit somebody has tampered with the book. The Bible now teaches us against evil and for evil instance. It says that we should not drink strong drinks. Wine is prohibited in some areas, and in others it says it is good for us. Now we're talking about contradiction. Let me read one more paragraph. The truth must triumph over falsehood, as day triumphs over night. When we deny the truth, it shows that we love falsehood more than truth. If we fear to speak the truth for the sake of falsehood, this is not only hiding the truth, but it's actually showing fear and distrust in the divine supreme being, which is wisdom and his power. Now, stop right there. And like I said, it is obligation for me to speak to these things. So teaches the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I have to stand on the platform of truth. But we, like the Christian leaders that the messenger mentions, anybody who has any type of voice nowadays relies on falsehood as a form of some type of way to receive trinkets to try to survive or prolong their life, or to have some similitude of power or position in their world. We preach and we promote falsehood to the extent not only that we're killing and destroying one another, but those who are bearers of truth, we instantly try to castigate and demonize them once they try to bring truth, bring light to the darkness, to the falsehood. Case in point, this is a subject matter that came up weeks ago, and I didn't want to talk on it then because there was a lot of conversation, and I didn't want this particular conversation that we're having now to get mixed up into that dialogue, which I felt had a lot of good points, but for the most part was unproductive rhetoric that was being spewed with the intent of continuing us to have the people chase their own tail. I want to speak about and make mention, I'm using him as an example. This brother and his family is something I'm not into destroying, because I believe that the black family is the righteous, holy family, but we have lost our way. And I'm using this as a literary, or in this case, you're hearing my voice, so to verbalize as an example to accentuate this point. Dwayne Wade and his son. Now, this is a young boy who hasn't even reached puberty, still in his adolescence, has been publicized and promoted because of a position that he's taken by the encouragement of both his biological father and his mother through marriage, which are two quote unquote famous celebrities in the world of sport and play entertainment, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade, which is a basketball player, Gabrielle Union, which is an actress. And what they are promoting is for this young man to not just go around proclaiming that he is homosexual, but proclaiming that he does not identify as a man, but he is preferred sex to be recognized as a female. Now, you're probably saying this, oh, that's not no big deal. That's not no problem. That's okay. Let the boy be what he wants to be. But no, brother and sister, this is so more serious than that. This is so much more serious than that. This is diabolical in the way that it is being promoted and championed. If you understand, throughout history, just do a little of research, a tad bit of due diligence. When you be able to track the record of the white man and what he promotes as it relates to things that are beneficial to black people, it's non-existent. But when you see white people, the same people who hung us from trees, the same people who enslaved us and treated us the worst any people could ever been treated, killed, hanged, murdered, maimed, devastated, removed our language, our culture, our identity, took us from our land, took the land over that we occupied here in America and throughout the Americas, reestablished themselves as the authority and the power. I'm talking about this people who would take horses, tie man up on both ends, and whip the horses to run opposite ways to rip the man apart in front of crowds of pregnant black women who would instill that fear into the psyche and subconscious of the children that are in that womb. I'm talking about this people. You think all of a sudden now that there's a change of heart, that now they have seen the error in their ways and they are remorseful and they repent, so they want to the best of their ability to help the black man and woman be more accepted just on the strength of being somebody who is an advocate of change, of progress. No, brothers and sisters, that narrative does not match up with the reality of who and what they are and what they have done. So I beg you, oh brothers and sisters, I beg you to please look at what is really going on. They are championing it because they know that is a behavior that will ill affect and be detrimental to black society. A, you sexualizing a child. For one, no child should have a sexual preference. No child, hear me, should have a sexual preference. That shouldn't even be in the thought of a child. Because now we're encroaching upon the acceptance of pedophilia, which we know as it relates to black people, something we as a people have outwardly rejected as a society, but we know was forced upon us because our children were being raped and mutilated and abused to the highest degree ever since white people have come in contact with our people. Think about the atrocious acts that was done here and on the continent. Where you got what happened in the Congo with the Belgian king, King Leopold, who would do some of the most disgusting and despicable acts to the Congolese people of that time. Up into present day. If you think about what happened here in the antebellum South, on those plantations, where the slave master would rape young men and women over and over again, have 12 and 13-year-old women who had just gotten their first period, being able to reproduce, have babies, just to make more slaves. So, for us, and for any sensible, civilized people, that is a road that you would never want to encroach upon. Now, to my second point. You are confusing a child sexually. When a child has been born one way, and he tells you at the early of his ages, if they profess that he said it since 2. Now you're talking about a child who barely learns how to speak, walk, crawl, has told you that he doesn't want to be a male, he would rather be a female, and he hasn't even mastered going to the potty. He hasn't mastered speaking normal, sensible words in the English dialect or language. He hasn't mastered being able to walk efficiently without stumbling or falling or holding on to something, and you tell me he has the mental capacity to tell you that he would rather be a woman than a man? Hear the illogical rationale that has been given to us as acceptable premises to operate on. Do you see where we are making an error in our ways? This is slavery all over again. Because if you can produce a generation of young men, just like in the time of King Herod and Pharaoh, when it talked about kill the man child and keep the woman, we ain't gonna be able to kill all these Negroes now. They keep reproducing, they keep having male children. Well, turn them into women and keep them. Because we know if the problem is the destruction of the black family, and we know the problem that the black family is not in its proper context is because the black man doesn't have his proper position. If you remove the black man totally and make all the men women, you will never have ability to put up a united front that can defeat white supremacy, mean defeat the devil and his evil, wicked ways and his satanic order and kingdom. But Dwayne Wade loves his child. So he has to support him in being a her. He has to encourage him in being a her. See, that's the language that the messenger talked about. When you're trying to bring truth and you mix it with falsehood, you make yourself a devil at once. Why is that? Because if Dwayne Wade truly loves that child, he would do what's best for it, not just now, but into perpetuity. And there's no way in the environment, or any environment, but especially in the environment that we're currently facing, that he should raise a black man child to be a white woman. Oh, this ain't nothing about being a white woman. What do you think he raising him to be? He thinks the only way to protect that child is to make him a child that is not just the opposite sex, but can be received as the opposite race. What type of cowardice is that? You don't defeat white supremacy by submitting to it. You defeat it by removing it. And you can't remove white supremacy if you are currently participating in it. You can't be an active member of the same institution that you're trying to destroy. Oh, we gonna integrate into it so that we can be in the inside, so we can tear it down from the inside. Yeah, that's your plan, right? And as soon as you get in, you make yourself the most comfortable home you possibly can in hell. You lost your mind. Well, we are in a reality where we're learning that some of these young men and women are born that way. Well, thought is a function of the brain. Reason, rationale is a function of the brain. But when you lose the capacity to have a functioning brain, you lose the capacity to make sound and logical decisions. Hear me out now. The brain development happens during the postnatal period. Why am I saying that? Because it's not 100% accurate. It happens actually in the prenatal condition or period. Because this is when the production of the neurons are developed inside of the child, which is a direct byproduct of the parent or the parental's development and actions that are taking place in their lives. So means subsequently, whatever that mother is conditioning herself to, whatever she's receiving and then taking, digesting mentally and physically, is developing the basis of the neurons that are forming this brain. She's electrically laying the framework for that child brain to respond in whatever said way. So yes, we're making children who are predisposed to this type of mentality by conditioning them in the womb. The proliferation and migration of these progenitors continues for an extended period after birth, but only an extended period. Because at that point, the differentiation and the maturation of these cells continue throughout childhood. But the development is already there before the birth and subsequently a short period after the birth. And at that point, after development happens, now it's figuring it out, working it out. But that is a direct correlation to the environment that child is being conditioned in. So in its heart, in its gut, the blood is that of one who's seeking freedom. But his brain has been wired, has been programmed in such a way, because we know the brain are neurons and electrons, so we know that's just electrical signals. Like you can program your computer to do a number of different things. You can program your brain to do anything or act in any behavior if it's not identified properly. We don't have self-awareness because we don't have a true and thorough knowledge of self. Therefore, we can easily be receptive to the reprogramming of this system consciously and subconsciously that puts us in a position that now we are thinking that this abnormal behavior is okay. Mixing truth and falsehood. So that's why we have to understand that the black man's mind has been totally dismantled. totally dismantled. That's why I have to come on this show and we create this show. Brother Munir has created Munir Muhammad Show, Muhammad and Friends. We have institutions like Crow, which was started by the co-founders, Munir Muhammad, Shaheed Muslim, Halif Muhammad, and all of those who helped make that reality possible. An institution of higher learning. You have the Nation of Islam under the guidance of the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. The Hebrew Israelite community under the guidance of Prince ICL. Originally under Ben Ami Rabi. And anybody else who really is teaching truth and knowledge of self. It's important because the thinking process must be systematically decontaminated. Because we have been infected. And I know we're so confused about this coronavirus right now, and we'll get to that to a later date. I'm going to touch that for sure. But our pathology of accepting this type of reality and this mentality is a behavioral illness, brothers and sisters. See, I don't think you understand the impact that it has. Now, let's look at this without any bias, without any personal emotions that's going to be added to it. Now, I talked about this mental illness. The brain creates coping mechanisms to try to, one, survive, two, to be able to deal with the current circumstances that the environment presents. Now, talked about slavery. See, you don't understand what we've been doing and what we've been going through and how we got to this particular point. I said that they will come in and rape the children. They would come in and rape the women. Do all type of horrendous acts to show their dominance and power and perversion. But they would also rape the men. This sexual homoerotic behavior was always prevalent in white society. It is a part of their culture. It is ingrained in their history. If you go back to the times of the Roman Empire, Julius Caesar, and that whole paradigm, if you come into the history of the Vatican and the Catholic Church up until this very moment, you have priests, so-called fathers of the church, having sex with young men, young altar boys, choir boys, and so forth and so on. If you look at the kings of England and France, sexual perversion, homoerotic behavior has always been there. Always. So for them, they see this specimen, this strong, black, beautiful, godly being here in the Americas and in Africa with all this power, and then they're able to be in a position where they're able to break them by sexually reducing them to a female in the position of having them be compromised. That's how they try to conquer God. Because remember, the plight of the devil is to conquer God and all of his creation. That's been the white man's objective. But going back to this pathology, we, because of that, have developed ways to try to preserve our life in a way that is not beneficial. That's why it is a mental illness. But because the mind is impaired due to all of the trauma, we use it as a way to try to substantiate our existence, and then we take this falsehood and make it truth. Let me continue. We have taken on what is known in popular lexicon of cooning, meaning black men who intentionally know better but talk against the plight of black men and women, and showing the side of the open and outright enemy to try to reduce the black man's condition as a byproduct of his own doing without any external outside interference, subjecting him to say that he has been put in that position due to his own laziness and lifestyle. That's just one example of cooning, but there's many more. But it is when one actively works against his own best interest for his own self-benefit. You say, how can he work against his own best interest for his own self-benefit? Because the best interest of the black man is the best interest of the black men and the black woman and the black family. We have never been an individual people in our thinking. We've always thought about the collective. That's why we came up with the adage that it takes a village to raise a child. That there's no singular responsibility to something that big. And it's the same thing to protecting the people. We know it takes all of us. That's why the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. He said the black man's unity is more powerful than an atomic weapon or atomic bomb. But in line with that, because black people have been practicing here in America this homo behavior for a number of years. Why is that? Listen to this. The human brain, the organ responsible for all patterns of logic, thought, speech, action, and emotional response. It is an organ of the nervous system that evolved over many thousands of years, millions of years, trillions of years. Its purpose has been to decode and solve problems in the external environment, both in its physical and social aspects. Thus, specific patterns of behavior may be looked upon as functional or dysfunctional solutions to problems posed by the external environment. When the brain's purpose is understood, patterns of males' passivity, effeminization, bisexuality, and homosexuality may be looked upon as functional or dysfunctional solutions to specific problems posed in its environment. Listen to this now. We knew through the system of systematic white supremacy and racism that is the dominant social system of the world today and the world of yesterday. We have realized that this fundamental dynamic that we are at risk at all costs in all aspects of life has devised a coping mechanism that we think is functional, but it's really dysfunctional as it relates to the benefit of actually protecting the black family. Behavior problems which makes the male more passive, more effeminized, and to accept the abuse of the slave master, which is the homosexual and bisexual lifestyle. Ooh, I know that hurts. So not only is it a byproduct of trauma or abuse that has been imposed because we are imitating what the slave master has done to us, and because we are weakened mentally and psychologically and even physically in that regard, we try to pose on smaller victims that same thing that was posed on us. So that's why you see in instances black men or being victims of rape or raping other black men or women or abusing them in different aspects. So that's one. But the other thing is that we're becoming willing participants because we say that it is safer to be an effeminized, passive, subdued, homosexual, bisexual, whatever you want to call yourself, transsexual man, so to speak, quote unquote, than to be a proud black strong man that is heterosexual that is in the position to bring prominence back to the black family. We know that we are a sacrificial lamb if we take on that position. And that's why they bombard us with so many examples, whether it be in the music or the television or throughout history, where men who took a strong position had to be destroyed, had to be killed, had to be imprisoned, had to be brought to naught. Their credibility had to be shaken and discredited. Because you can't last as a strong black man in white America. But if I make myself a woman, I can preserve my life just a little bit longer. This is what we've come to the realization of. This is what we come into the acceptance of. We have convinced ourselves, brother and sister, that this is a course of action that we can rather accept than to fight our own freedom. So what am I saying today? So I want to wrap up on this point, but I'm going to come back with part 2 because I want to talk about the chemical effects of this reality in the destruction of the black man as we reclaim the power and position of the black family. We have been reduced to social acceptance rather than total and outright freedom. We are willing to sacrifice our children in any regard. And that's what shows this last case of Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, that they are sacrificing their children for the acceptance of white society. This has nothing to do with supporting their child. If your child says he want to play with a gun, oh, I'm going to support my child. No, you're going to stop him. If you say that my child is going to play with fire, no, he's just exploring. No, you're going to stop him. When you talking about him cutting off the lineage of the seed and be able to reproduce himself and to be in a position of power, that's what he's doing. He's killing himself. So if you see your son about to go hang himself, you stop him. So now you're talking about social and emotional hanging, possibly going all the way with dismembering himself and totally castrating himself, which was another tactic and tool that they used in slavery over and over again. And now we're willingly doing it ourselves under deception and lies, of course. But that thing is, we don't have to chop them off, because if we can program them to a position where they do it themselves, we lose all responsibility, accountability. So now they don't have to revolt against us. They revolt against their damn self because they're the ones who did it to themselves. Even though we're the one behind the scene pulling the strings. So how long are we going to continue to sacrifice on falsehood? When are we going to stand up for truth and do what is necessary and right to reestablish a presence of providence and power? When are we going to return to the ideas of what got us to be the greatest people, the chosen people of God, the creators of all civilizations, sciences, and institutions of higher learning? It's not going to be reducing ourselves to the beasts of the field, nor to the handmaidens of the slave master. It's going to be returning back to God and standing on that truth. Men, you cannot be afraid to be a man. Have integrity, have honor, have discipline. Respect your women, train your children properly, and always lead by example. You submit and put your faith in the hands of Almighty God, and your women and children will follow suit. Because no woman, no children should trust a man who can't be trusted because he doesn't trust in God. This is the time of the end. This world has to be destroyed. But what are we going to bring up out of it once it's brought to naught? Once it's totally decimated? What world will be built in? Is it going to be a replication of what has already been established with a black face? No, God won't let that happen. It has to be one built on the premise of truth. Know who you are. Rise up. Be a mighty man and a mighty nation again. Stand on the foundation of truth. Go on with good courage. And stay connected to Almighty God Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Farah Muhammad and his messenger. And you won't be led astray. I thank you again for listening. And if you're in the city of Chicago, please, this week, I don't like to date the shows, but I'm going to do it this time. The Sunday of March 8th, 5 to 7 p.m. Founders Day at Crow. The beautiful fundraiser that we have for the Coalition of the Remembrance of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's going to be a powerful event. It's going to be the first without our love, late great brother Munir, but we're going to have his presence and his spirit amongst us all, and we're going to make him proud on the outing that we're going to bring forth in the name of the messenger of God and a mission of bringing truth to his people. So if you're in the city, please stop by. If not, send a donation in. Show them that you are with truth. Whether it be with me or Munir or the co-founders, but with truth. Help us out so that we can help our people know the reality of things. The truth of God, the truth of the devil, and the truth of self. So that location is 2435 West 71st Street. Once again, 2435 West 71st Street, excuse me. So I thank you again for listening as I leave you, as I greeted you, in the words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.